The signal crackled through the void, short, desperate, and full of dread. A single SOS carried on a narrow frequency burst, the kind not used for centuries. It was old Earth tech, a relic of a time before galactic unification. It shouldn't have even worked across interstellar space anymore, but somehow it reached them. The humans. The message had come from the ruins of Harkun 7, a mining colony nestled on the edge of Dominion-controlled space. It was little more than a rock riddled with titanium veins and broken machines now. The planet had been declared lost months ago after its distress beacon suddenly went silent. Everyone assumed pirates or Dominion strike forces had wiped the colony clean. No one looked back. No one, except the Deathworlders. The humans had always been a bit different. Not just stronger or faster, though in atmosphere and gravity conditions most aliens found punishing, humans thrived like cockroaches in nuclear fallout. No, what made them terrifying wasn't their biology. It was their thinking. The Dominion called it chaos logic, a way of viewing war, life, and survival through unpredictable strategies and reckless courage. Other species relied on strategy models and efficiency. Humans, they relied on rage, on history, on vengeance. The SOS had reached a hidden listening post on an old Martian relay satellite. A machine no one remembered was still operational, but the AI running it was still awake, still loyal. It had relayed the message to Earth's Special Combat Directorate, and Earth responded. A single ship left the Sol system. Not a fleet, not a formation, just one. It was called the Obsidian Thorn. Everyone knew the stories. It was a weapon more than a vessel, a Shadow-class stealth carrier designed during the last Zarnax War but never used. Its existence was whispered, never confirmed. Most of the Galactic Council thought it was myth, a ghost to scare political enemies. They were wrong. On board the Thorn, there were no diplomats, no negotiators, only one squad. 5 humans, each one marked unfit for standard combat due to psychological instability. Too aggressive, too unpredictable. Each had been sentenced to deep storage cryostasis, until now. They were being deployed not as soldiers, but as weapons, as the weapon. The commander, Captain Vera Knox, reviewed the final transmission from Harkun 7 in silence. It showed static-filled footage, barely 2 seconds, of creatures tearing into colonists with jagged limbs and acidic spit. Not Dominion troops. Something worse. Biotech horrors bred for extermination. "They weren't supposed to be here," she muttered. Beside her, the squad's psychologist, an old AI named Harlan, blinked into view. "Dominion protocols forbid unleashing scourge beasts beyond test zones. This appears to be a field experiment. They wanted to see what happens when monsters meet miners." Vera's jaw tightened. "Then we show them what happens when monsters meet Earth." In their sleep pods, the 5 operatives stirred. One by one, their files blinked on the command screen. Sergeant Keel, formerly sentenced for executing a superior officer during a failed evacuation mission. Dr. Yanis Vega, neuroscientist turned killer, known for weaponizing neural terror. Lance Corporal Reeve, a brawler who survived the Glass Moon campaign by sheer brutality. Eliara Zane, a saboteur who once took down a dreadnought from the inside. And finally, Subject 9, real name erased, known only as Void. No record of survival parameters, classified as active threat in containment. "They'll never see us coming," Vera whispered. As the ship faded into subspace, the Dominion's council remained blissfully unaware that they had made one fatal mistake. They thought humanity forgot Harkun 7, but humans never forget. The Obsidian Thorn emerged from subspace without a sound. No tremors, no flare, just a shadow bleeding into real space above the ash-covered sky of Harkun 7. The planet spun silently below, choked in grey dust and storm clouds that glowed faintly with ion discharge. Whatever was down there, it had turned the air toxic and the ground unfit for life. Captain Vera Knox stood at the forward observation deck, staring down at the wasteland through polarized glass. Her jaw locked tight as if trying to hold in the storm building in her own mind. Behind her, Harlan, the ship's AI, floated in a holographic shimmer, his voice smooth and clinical. Planet-wide comms are dead. Surface scans confirm at least 4 major biosignatures, likely scourge clusters. Estimated civilian survival, less than 2%. Vera didn't flinch. Wake the team. In the cryo chamber, steam hissed as the locks disengaged. The capsules cracked open one by one, like ancient tombs releasing sleeping gods. Cold breath, twitching muscles, and the sound of heartbeat monitors filled the space. The Deathworlders rose. Keel stepped out first, bare-chested and barefoot, scars stitched across his chest like war trophies. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. Everyone knew what he was. Yanis Vega followed, stretching with the grace of a dancer and the dead eyes of a scientist who had long since stopped pretending to be sane. She ran a hand through her tangled silver hair and smiled. Smells like death out there. Just my kind of vacation. Reeve grunted as he crushed a protein bar between his teeth, the wrapper still on. You sure this isn't just another trap? Feels like we're being tossed in for cleanup. Zane chuckled as she strapped explosives to her belt. Cleanup's fine, long as they let me make a mess first. Void didn't speak. He stood still as a statue, wrapped in black tactical cloth, his face hidden behind a matte mask. No name, no history. He was the last thing you saw before the dark took you. They assembled in the drop bay, standing before Vera as she briefed them without emotion. We're not here to rescue. We're not here to negotiate. This is a demonstration. Dominion wants to test monsters. We're giving them nightmares in return. Yanis tilted her head. Define success. Leave nothing alive that breathes Dominion air. They dropped like bullets through a loaded chamber, one by one, riding silent pods into the storm-ridden atmosphere. The wind screamed around them, lightning cracked like whips through the clouds, and for a few seconds, just a few, the Deathworlders were alone, falling between heaven and hell. Keel's pod hit first, slamming through a half-collapsed mining structure. He emerged, dragging his hammer, yes, a hammer, through the dirt, crushing a twitching creature that had once been human. Now its skin was peeled back, organs pulsing on the outside, teeth grown over its lips like a second jaw. He didn't blink. He just crushed its skull. Yanis landed near a communications hub, overrun with black roots and ichor. She opened her palm, releasing a swarm of neuro-wasps, microscopic bots programmed to overload nervous systems. The screams that followed weren't human anymore. Reeve tore through the streets with a flamethrower, laughing like it was a goddamn party. The fire lit up the night like sunrise, painting the buildings in blood red. Zane, true to her nature, was already inside the enemy's nest. She planted charges on incubation pods, stepping carefully between the writhing larvae and the birthing tanks. Her face twisted in disgust. Dominion's got no soul left, she whispered. Just meat and orders. Then there was Void. He didn't land. He appeared. Somehow he bypassed gravity, scanning, and even visual tracking. When Dominion scouts reviewed their last footage, all they saw was a flicker of static, then their own troops falling, sliced, broken, erased. By nightfall, the scourge beasts were fleeing their own breeding grounds. The predators had become prey. Vera watched it all from orbit, her voice a low growl. Send the message. Harlan pulsed. What message, Captain? She turned, eyes glowing cold. Tell the Dominion this is what happens when you poke the deadliest world in the galaxy. Smoke rose like black flags from the colony ruins. The atmosphere, already choked with chemicals, now thickened with the stench of burnt alien flesh, and something fouler, scourge bile. Harkoon 7 wasn't just dead, it was being unmade. Vera stood silent in the bridge of the obsidian thorn, watching the Deathworlders carve a message into the Dominion's arrogance, one broken body at a time. Each squad member had gone off-grid, intentionally. They didn't need orders now. They were instinct, violence, and vengeance wrapped in flesh. The Dominion wanted a test? This was a goddamn lesson. Down below, Keel stalked through a cratered street once lined with housing units. The homes were reduced to concrete bones, their insides painted with claw marks and blast burns. He found a survivor, a young girl huddled beneath a crushed transport vehicle, her breathing shallow, her arm severed below the elbow. She stared at him, wide-eyed, like he was the monster. He knelt beside her, ripping open a stim pack with his teeth and jamming it into her chest. "This ain't your time, kid," he muttered. She passed out. He left her where she'd live, then picked up his hammer and kept moving. In the north sector, Yanis Vega had converted a half-ruined medbay into her playground. Dozens of Dominion-bred parasites lay twitching on the ground, pinned to surgical tables with bone saws and scalpels. She'd peeled back their neural clusters, watching how their instincts collapsed when exposed to raw stimuli. One still breathed. She leaned in close. "Tell your masters, the brain bleeds before the heart stops. I made sure a scalpel slid across cartilage." Silence followed. Meanwhile, Zane had turned the colony's power core into a ticking bomb. Her fingers danced over the detonator's wiring like she was composing music. "This whole place dies when I hit this," she said softly, as if the core were listening. No traces, no recovery. She wasn't smiling. Not this time. Not far from her, Reeve stood over a pile of corpses. Dominion troops. Half-armored, some still twitching, others melted into the mud by fire and acid. He was drenched in blood. Some his, most not. He spit a tooth out, not his either. He pressed a transmitter to his chest. "Area's clear. What's next?" Vera's voice came through, cold and steel-sharp. "Hold position. Void is en route." Reeve glanced toward the horizon. "He better be fast. There's something big down here." It came before he finished the sentence, a sound like 1,000 insect wings, followed by silence. And then the earth cracked. From the ground rose a creature that didn't fit any Dominion registry. 30 feet tall, hunched and plated like a beetle, but its torso opened like a blooming flower, revealing rows of glistening teeth and an echoing scream that turned Reeve's blood to ice. "Scourge Prime," Yanis whispered from her post, watching it on an uplink. "Prototype Alpha. It's a hive brain. Then we decapitate it," Vera answered. The team converged. Zane abandoned her bombs. Keel came from the east, dragging his hammer like a guillotine. Yanis approached from above, using a collapsed building's scaffolding. Reeve readied his last canister of phosphorus. And Void, he was already there. The Scourge Prime turned its many eyes upward just in time to see Void descend from the sky, wrapped in black like death itself. He landed on its back. He didn't roar, didn't speak, just ripped. Flesh tore, metal shrieked, acid sprayed. The creature writhed, screeching, trying to shake him off, but he moved like liquid shadow, impossible to track, impossible to stop. Blades flashed, wires were severed. The hive brain panicked, not with logic but with fear. That's when Keel hit it from the front. The hammer slammed into its chest, cracking open plates that pulsed with green light. A roar followed, not from the monster, but from Keel. Reeve ignited the phosphorus and hurled it into the wound. The fire caught the nerves inside. The beast howled, limbs flailing as it staggered backward, into Zane's trap. The building behind it exploded, sending concrete and shrapnel through its gut. Giannis aimed a modified neural spike and shot it into the exposed hive cortex. The creature froze, its roar died in its throat, and then it collapsed, dead, twitching, burning. Void stepped off its corpse, blood dripping from his mask. From orbit, the Dominion fleet that had been watching via spy probes received their answer. This wasn't a war, it was a warning. Above the scorched skies of Harkoon 7, the obsidian thorn maintained its ghostly orbit, unseen and undetected. Dominion eyes were watching now, of that Vera was sure. Their silence wasn't ignorance, it was calculation. They had seen the Scourge Prime fall, watched as a prototype monstrosity meant to break civilizations was torn down in hours by 5 unstable humans. They didn't expect an answer like that. Vera paced the bridge, her boots echoing softly against the metal floor. Harlan's voice flickered beside her. 3 Dominion warships have shifted positions beyond the planet's gravity well. They're not entering combat range. Yet. Vira stopped, her voice sharp. They're observing. Analyzing. Hesitating. Good. Let them. Below, the Deathworlders regrouped in the ruins of the main colony plaza. Fires still burned around them. The sky was ash. Bodies, both alien and human, littered the streets. Reeve slumped against the remains of a statue, smoke curling from the barrel of his weapon. His arms were scorched, and a shard of something, bone or metal, was lodged in his thigh. Keel stood over the corpse of the Scourge Prime, breathing hard, his hammer resting on what used to be its chest. Still think this was just about cleanup? He muttered, glancing at Reeve. Reeve didn't laugh. They sent that thing to test us, to see if we'd run. They wanted a reaction. Zane added, emerging from the shadows, her face smeared with soot and dried blood. Guess they got one. Void was already scanning the horizon, crouched like a predator in stillness. He hadn't spoken a word since landing. Didn't need to. His silence was its own language, one that screamed, "Kill again! Kill better!" Giannis tapped on a datapad scavenged from one of the Scourge's control units. Her eyes narrowed. This wasn't just an experiment. This colony was their prototype field. The Scourge Prime wasn't born here. It was bred here. Zane frowned. They made it on Harkoon 7? Number worse. They grew it, using colonist DNA, human DNA. Everyone went still. Even Void's head tilted just a fraction. Reeve spat blood. They're making hybrids. Giannis nodded grimly. Biological interface signatures confirm it. They're splicing human resilience into Scourge units. That's why they needed this place isolated. Why they killed everyone but kept the infrastructure intact. Keel clenched his fists. They're not just fighting us. They're becoming us. A sickening thought hung in the air. Up on the thorn, Vera received the data burst from Giannis. As she reviewed the genetic overlays, her stomach turned. The Dominion had been quiet for a reason. They didn't want to win a war with numbers anymore. They wanted to win with our own flesh. Harlan, she said quietly. Begin full protocol escalation. If this gets out, we can't put it back in the bottle. You mean, burn it all? The AI asked, already knowing the answer. Everything. The colony, the breeding facilities, the orbit. If even one hybrid gets off-world, it's the end of species separation. Harlan finished. Understood. Down below, the squad received the new orders. Extraction in 30 minutes. Vera's voice came through on all channels. But before that, you go underground. You find the hatchery and cleanse it. No survivors, no samples. Reeve stood, limping slightly. Deep tunnels, Dominion-level tech. We go down there, we might not come back. Keel rolled his shoulders. Then we better make it count. Zane smirked. Always wanted to crack open hell. Void was already moving. The entrance to the hatchery was beneath the old mining facility, disguised beneath rusted doors and half-buried scaffolding. As they descended, the air grew colder, wetter. The walls pulsed faintly with organic growth, veins of black ichor pumping something that smelled like death and rot. Lights flickered. Then came the whispers. Not voices, memories. The hybrid tech was psychic sensitive, tapping into the memories of the colonists it absorbed. Pain, terror, sorrow. It bled through the metal, echoing in their minds like ghosts. Giannis staggered briefly. They're using memory loops to condition the hybrids, training them with pain, teaching them how to hate like us. Keel grunted. They're building demons from our trauma. Void moved ahead silently, blades already drawn. In the final chamber, they found it. The hatchery. Dozens of cocoons, each taller than a man, lined the walls in spirals of meat and steel. Inside each one, something twitched. Humanoid shapes with too many limbs, skin like cracked obsidian, faces almost human, but wrong. Reeve raised his weapon. We torch it now. Giannis stopped him. Wait. One of them is conscious. Inside the largest pod was a woman, human, fully formed, at least on the outside. She opened her eyes and whispered through the glass. I was awake the whole time. Her voice was human, but her smile was not. Reeve's finger hovered over the trigger, jaw clenched. The woman inside the pod stared back at them with a calm that didn't belong in a place like this, not surrounded by meat walls and hatching abominations. Her eyes were too still, too precise. Human pupils, yes, but the expression behind them was wrong. Office like something that had learned how to mimic a human face, but never quite mastered the soul behind it. She looks fine, Zane said, inching closer. But so do spiders, right before they strike. Giannis tapped on the side of the glass, analyzing readings from her wrist console. Her vitals are stable, technically human, no visible grafts or mutations. She paused. But her brain activities, off the charts, higher than baseline cognition, like she's accessing multiple streams of data at once. She's a goddamn hive node, Keel growled. A smart shell for dumb monsters. Inside the pod, the woman blinked slowly. Her hand pressed against the glass. I'm not your enemy, she whispered. Her voice cracked, raw, painful, like someone who'd been screaming for years. Giannis narrowed her eyes. You were conscious during incubation? I remember everything. The woman's voice trembled now. They took us, fed us into machines, pulled pieces off our minds. They made copies. I'm not the first, but I'm the only one who stayed. Me. Void stepped forward silently and tapped his blade gently against the glass. Once, twice, a warning. Reeve grunted. This is a distraction, a talking trap. She's telling the truth, Giannis said, half surprised by her own words. Or at least part of her is. There's a real psyche in there, buried under whatever the Dominion built. Zane's hand hovered near her detonator. So what? She remembers being human. That doesn't mean she is. The woman's smile faded. Her voice softened. They're planning more hatcheries. I've seen the coordinates, hundreds of planets. They want to seed every major system with hybrids like me. Ones that pass for human. You won't see them coming. Not until it's too late. That changed everything. Reeve stepped back, breathing hard. She's a spy, a ticking time bomb with a human face. No, Giannis said. She's leverage. Knowledge like that could stop the entire project, cripple their breeding network. Keel's fingers tightened around his hammer. Vera said cleanse. No survivors. No samples. Giannis didn't back down. And if this is our only chance to stop them from mass-producing these things, she's not a threat, she's a map. Void raised one finger slowly, then pointed down. Everyone looked. Beneath the cocoon chamber, pulsing just below the mesh floor, was a second layer. A deep, cavernous vault filled with eggs. Thousands of them, unawakened, silent. The woman's voice dropped to a whisper. "They'll wake soon." Reeve looked to Keel. "You want to torch it all? You better do it now." Yanis pressed a hand against the pod. "I can pull her out safely. She's not contaminated. If she's right, she's seen the Dominion's entire hybrid infrastructure." "She's not coming back to Earth." Keel snapped. "That's not a person anymore. It's bait in a flesh suit." From above, Vera's voice broke through on comms. "Status report. You're out of time." Keel keyed the mic. "Found the hatchery, found a survivor. Yanis wants to bring her in." A pause. Then Vera. "Is she clean?" Yanis spoke quickly. "Bio readings say yes, mentally intact. Cognition levels suggest she has Dominion intel hard-coded into memory. If we can extract her—" Vera cut her off. "If. That's a big word. The mission is containment, not redemption. You want to bet Earth's future on her, maybe?" Silence filled the chamber. Yanis looked at the woman, who was no longer pleading, just waiting. "I've seen what they'll become," the woman said softly. "I know where they're going. I know how to stop it. But if you burn me here, they'll build again. They'll hide next time." Void stared at her, then turned to Keel. For the first time, he spoke. "Burn the eggs. Extract the girl." Everyone froze. His voice was deep, unfiltered, laced with something not entirely sane, but it was clear. Keel grunted. "You think she's worth it?" Void didn't answer. He just stared at the pod. Vera's voice crackled again. "Fine, bring her up. But if she twitches wrong, she dies screaming." Reeve nodded. "Zane, light it." She didn't hesitate. With a flick of her thumb, she armed the charges along the hatchery walls. As Yanis began unlocking the pod, Zane dropped her voice to a mutter. "Time to teach the Dominion what real monsters look like." As the girl stepped from the pod, trembling, barefoot, covered in biofluid, Void handed her a cloth to wipe her face. She took it without speaking. Behind them, fire erupted through the hatchery, consuming the spawn. And far above, in the silent Dominion fleet, alarms began to ring. Because they knew. The Deathworlders weren't retreating. They were bringing something back. The obsidian thorn tore through the black void of space, silent and cloaked, fleeing the dying husk of Harkoon 7. Behind it, the colony burned from the inside out, consumed by chain detonations that boiled the hatchery, collapsed the mines, and vaporized any trace of the Dominion's hybrid experiment. But the Dominion wasn't concerned with what had been destroyed. They were watching what had been taken. On board, the girl, who called herself Elia, sat in the medical bay under 24-hour surveillance. Wrapped in a thermal blanket, eyes sunken but alert, she hadn't spoken since extraction. Her presence was like a loaded gun in the room, silent, still, and undeniably dangerous. Yanis sat nearby, monitoring her vitals. "Your nervous system's still firing like you're in combat shock," she said gently. "Whatever they did to you, it left a permanent mark." Elia didn't respond. Yanis leaned forward. "You said you saw their plans, the coordinates. Do you still remember them?" A long pause, then a nod. "They etched them into our sleep cycles, repetition drills, hundreds of sites, spread out across colony routes, cargo paths, even remote moons. No major worlds, not yet." Reeve stood in the corner of the room, arms crossed. "So you're telling us the Dominion's building sleeper hatcheries in our own backyard?" "They're not just breeding hybrids," Elia said, voice flat. "They're embedding them, creating future uprisings without firing a single weapon. One day you wake up, and your neighbor, your kid, your damn president isn't human anymore." Silence fell like a hammer. Zane's voice came over comms. Captain, you need to see this. Dominion fleet just jumped in system. Vera didn't flinch. How many? 6 destroyers. No flagships. Formations tight. No open channels. They're not here to negotiate. On the bridge, Vera stood with her arms crossed, her face lit by the tactical hologram. They're sending a message. They know we brought her on board. They want her back. Or dead. Harlan appeared beside her. I've intercepted encrypted pulses, not commands, warnings. Their fleet is broadcasting self-destruct contingencies to planetary relay nodes. They're ready to wipe other hatchery sites if Elia leaks the locations. Vera's mouth twisted. They'd rather burn their own operations than let us shut them down? Efficient, Harlan said. Paranoid. And very Dominion. Giannis's voice crackled in. Captain, if we want her mind intact, we need to extract those coordinates now. The Dominion might have fail-safes inside her, neurological kill switches. The longer she stays conscious, the higher the risk. Vera closed her eyes. Prep for a memory dive. Void entered the medbay without a word. He nodded once to Giannis and took position beside Elia's cot. He was there for protection, or termination, depending on how things went. Giannis connected the neural link. Elia closed her eyes. And then chaos, flashes of red, screams, machinery slicing through bone, Dominion doctors in biohazard suits, virtual maps flickering across her vision, symbols, coordinates, star charts burned into her subconscious like scars. Giannis flinched as the feedback pulse cracked through the monitor. She's resisting. Not consciously. Her mind's been booby-trapped. Keel entered with Reeve, eyes narrowed. You said you could pull this off. I can, but if I screw up even once, we could trigger a neural collapse. Or worse, send a beacon to the Dominion fleet. Vera's voice boomed over the speakers. You've got 10 minutes, Doctor. After that, we destroy the data the hard way. Inside Elia's mind, everything twisted. One moment, she was on a school transport as a child. The next, in a vat of black liquid, screaming while something forced itself into her spine. Then, her eyes opened in the chair again, drenched in sweat. I've got them, Giannis whispered. Coordinates, all of them. She uploaded the data directly to the Thorn's quantum core. But the moment the upload hit 100%, the ship shuddered. Alarms rang out. Enemy boarding pods inbound, Zane screamed. Stealth-fused, needle-class insertion units. They're already inside. Vera shouted into comms. All hands to defense positions. Protect the core. If they can't have Elia, they'll take the intel. In the medbay, lights went red. Void was already moving, sliding his mask into place. Elia stood, eyes wide. They're coming for me. Reeve handed her a weapon. No, he said. They're coming for us. And for the first time, Elia smiled. This time, not with malice, but with rage. Then let's show them what happens when they pick a fight with Deathworlders. The corridors of the Obsidian Thorn erupted in chaos as the Dominion boarding pods split open like steel eggs, disgorging squads of enhanced troopers. Not the usual grunts, but precision-engineered hybrid killers. Sleek, silent, and bred to mimic human reflexes, they moved in near-perfect unison, their weapons humming with viral payloads designed to paralyze, not kill. The Dominion didn't want a massacre, they wanted capture. But they'd underestimated what kind of hell they were walking into. Keel was the first to meet them, right outside the medbay corridor. He didn't wait for the alarm to finish blaring. With a grunt, he launched himself into the first wave, hammer swinging in wide arcs that shattered limbs and cracked chitinous armor like glass. One hybrid tried to outflank him using the ceiling, crawling like a spider. But Keel grabbed its leg mid-air and slammed it down hard enough to cave the floor panel. Reeve arrived seconds later, unloading a burst of incendiary rounds into the hallway, setting two hybrids alight. Their flesh bubbled and peeled, but they kept coming, shrieking in high-pitched mimicry of human screams. "Copycats!" Reeve spat. "You want to feel human? Try burning like one." In the med bay, Elia clutched the rifle Reeve had handed her, eyes locked on the door. Yanis stood beside her, pulse rifle ready, while Void loomed just behind, so still he looked like part of the wall. Elia's breathing was heavy. "They'll go for the core. If they wipe that, your war's already lost." Yanis nodded grimly. "Then we make our stand there." Vera's voice crackled over the comms. "Bridge crew, fall back to level 3 containment. Squad, protect the quantum core at all costs. If it's compromised, blow the ship." Zane's voice came through next, distorted by gunfire. "I'm at core control. They're already here. I'll hold them as long as I can. Just move fast." The medbay team bolted into the hallway, flanked by Keel and Reeve, who had carved a bloody path ahead. The corridor floors were slick with black ichor and human blood. As they passed the remains of one Dominion soldier, Elia paused. It was wearing a human face. Her face. She went pale. "They're replicating me." Void stopped, turned toward her slowly. His voice was low and cold. "Then kill them first." When they reached core control, the doors were half melted from plasma fire. Zane was pinned behind a steel pillar, lobbing explosives with one hand and firing with the other. Her leg was shredded. One of the hybrids had sunk a serrated blade into her thigh and twisted. "About time you joined the party?" She grunted, tossing another mine toward the cluster, trying to breach the core chamber. "We've got 5 minutes before they slice through that shield door." Keel dragged a portable barricade into place, bracing it with debris. "Then we make them bleed for every second." Void moved to the front. No hesitation. The hybrids surged toward him. 10, maybe more. He cut them down like shadows slicing through fire. No wasted motion, no sound, just blood. Elia dropped to her knees behind the barricade, opened a secure line to the Thorn's AI, and began transmitting the hatchery coordinates directly to Earth's deep command network. "Signal going out now. If they take me, make sure the data makes it through." Yanis helped stabilize Zane and set up a line of thermal charges around the core. "You know what happens if they breach this line, right?" Zane smirked through clenched teeth. "Boom, classic ending." Reeve was drenched in sweat and blood. "Let's make it poetic then." But then, the lights flickered. Everything stopped. And then came the voice. Not over comms, not from a mouth, but in their heads. "Give her back, and we let the rest of you live." Elia's breath caught. "That's them. That's the hive link. She was never yours. She belongs to the new evolution. You delay what's already begun." Void stepped forward slowly and answered out loud. "Come, take her." The Dominion hybrids surged with renewed fury, their minds spurred by the collective will of the hive. But this wasn't just about numbers anymore. This was about defiance. Keel laughed as he drove his hammer through another skull. "Now you get it, you alien freaks. This isn't your war. It's ours." Reeve lit the last of his flares, his eyes wild with glee. "Let's dance, meat puppets." The hybrids breached the last defense, and the humans held the line. Fire, screams, steel, blood. The core pulsed behind them, the heart of the ship, and now the soul of Earth's resistance. Elia, tears mixing with sweat, clutched the data transmitter tight. "I remember all your plans," she whispered, "and now they will too." The obsidian thorn was dying. Warning sirens screamed through the ship's skeleton as smoke flooded the lower decks. Hull integrity dropped below 20%. Oxygen was venting from at least 4 sectors, and fires had turned most of the command corridor into a furnace. The Dominion hybrids didn't care. They kept coming, relentless, silent, and swarming. They weren't here to conquer. They were here to erase, and they were seconds away from doing it. Inside core control, what remained of the Deathworlders made their final stand. Keel was soaked in blood, limping, one eye swollen shut. His hammer had broken halfway through the last wave, so now he was using a broken steel pipe, swinging it like it still had weight. Reeve had taken a blade through the gut, but taped it up with synth flesh and adrenaline injectors. His hands were shaking, his ammo gone, but he grinned like a madman. Still got my teeth. Giannis had hardwired herself into the core interface, sweat pouring down her face, fingers flying as she fought to finish the data transfer. Just 30 more seconds, that's all we need. Zane lay against a fallen bulkhead, eyes fluttering, explosives rigged on her chest like a martyr's vest. She was too weak to move, but not too weak to smile. Anyone breaches this line, I'm hugging them to hell. Void stood at the front, blades red, armor cracked. Breathing hard, silent, watching, and a liar. She sat beside the core, holding the transmitter like it was her own heartbeat, tears streaking down her cheeks. Not from fear, but from clarity. The memories were all there now. Full, sharp. The locations, the designs, the evolution models. All of it. I remember the Dominion scientists, she said quietly, her voice steady despite the chaos. They called me Project Mercy, because I was supposed to be a more humane killer. Reeve spat blood. Funny name for a monster. I'm not the monster, she said. They are. Then, with a deep breath, she activated the final code fragment. The transmitter pulsed green. Uplink complete. Transmission secured. Quantum echo deployed. The data was out. Every Dominion hatchery coordinate, every experiment, every failed prototype, every sleeper agent placed across the galaxy. Earth had it now, and they would burn it all. Got it, Giannis whispered, collapsing back. It's done. But the hybrids didn't stop. They breached the door, 10 of them, then 20, creeping like liquid shadow, eyes glowing, limbs twitching, bone and metal fused into killing art. Void stepped forward. He looked at Elia, then to Keel. He didn't speak, but they all understood. He was going to buy them time, and he wasn't coming back. The last thing they saw before the final door closed was Void vanishing into the hybrids like a black wave crashing into a red sea. No screams, no hesitation, just destruction. Zane's hand trembled on the detonator. This is how we end things. Vira's voice faint over the comms. Prepare for emergency evac. Orbital window opens in 20 seconds. Keel grabbed Elia. You're going. You've got the map. I'm staying, she said. If they get me, they won't. He snapped, because we're not losing today. He threw her into the evac pod with Reeve and what was left of Giannis. Zane stayed. Her smile faded into peace. I always said I'd blow up something important. The pod launched just as the hybrids breached the chamber fully. Zane closed her eyes. Boom, she whispered. The explosion tore through the core like a sun ripping itself apart. The obsidian thorn fractured into dust, taking Zane, Keel, Void, and 100 Dominion abominations with it. From the life pod, Elia watched as the stars blinked behind her tears. Goodbye, she whispered. Deathworlders. 6 days later, the signal reached Earth. The data was real, and humanity responded. From the ashes of Harkoon 7, from the ghosts of the Thorn, from the death cry of 5 unstoppable soldiers, a new protocol was born. Operation Cinder Veil, full-scale hybrid extermination. Earth didn't wait. Earth never waited. The galaxy had seen its monsters. Now it would remember its apex predator.